episode 2, a 4-issue miniseries.
So to recap, I'd had the concept of a PTSD Incredibles in which the father of the family witnesses the death of his son beyond a tough glass-like screen he can't break through. I conceived this as the essence of trauma. With the concept, a potential title and sci-fi premise came together almost at the same moment. This would chime with narratologists who state the title can be, in fact, pretty important when chosen correctly. My idea was the father is eaten up with grief over this, or PTSD trauma alternatively. With this title, the sci-fi premise is that the antagonist has some sort of weird sci-fi ability, a little like the Marvel character Chamber. His head becomes energy-imbued, and his mouth in turn becomes a transit of matter voxels from the victim to somewhere else. So, to witness this, it looks like the victim is eaten up. Fairly quickly, 4 mirrored set-piece action scenes revolving around this sci-fi premise came to mind for the entire plot. 1 and 4 are first, the trauma, and then last, some sort of reversal. Number 2, I decided, would be halfway between an entire 4-issue run, with the issue length undecided, but possibly 22 to 24 pages. At halfway in the plot, the second set piece would be the equivalent of a midpoint mirror, so should mirror the events of the finale. The third set piece would constitute a dark night of the soul for the protagonist, echoing his first trauma. This was all fine and dandy until I got into the character development. A traumatic event in the military suggested to me a military psychiatrist. This would allow some depth in exploring trauma, but I now had several setups between multiple characters that would need to be paid off. I had the father reflected in several family members, his victim's son, his wife who he delivers a key problematic line to in the first scene, and his daughter. The results of trauma and bereavement would all play out differently with these 3. I had the psychiatrist, as mentioned, with a good real-world basis in Jonathan Shea, who is one of the psychiatrists I read up on for a grounding in trauma. I then had, obviously, the antagonist. Additionally, I had my main guy's boss, his tech geek colleague, and a new sidekick trainee as a potential mirror of his son. Could all these relationships be explored in 4 issues? Well, even if all the scenes were interpersonal and or dialogue, which they wouldn't be as that would be boring, we would have maybe 96 pages total for all setups and payoffs. If we accept the protagonist has some form of conflict with all 3 family members and the other 5 characters, that makes 12 pages for each relationship, exempting the dead son, or 6 pages of setup with 6 pages of payoff each. Of course, it doesn't work like that, as the majority of those pages would be an arc for each character, with all or most of the payoffs occurring in the last issue, and most paid off additionally with action, possibly with multiple characters in the same scenes. I needed a better plot breakdown to work out if 4 issues would be enough.
Next, a plot breakdown.